have a small space for home decor, but you still want to accessorize for fall? Hi, my name is Leslie, and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIYs and home decor and more. Today we are going to be making 5 projects that are small but cute and affordable for your fall decor. So let's get started. Here are all the supplies that you're going to need for project number 1. Almost everything comes from DollarTree, but we're going to start with these cubes. They come in packages of 3, so you'll need 2 packages because we're going to need a total of 4. 2 we are going to paint with Waverly chalk paint in moss green, and the other 2 we are going to paint with Waverly chalk paint in ivory. The next thing you're going to need to grab is some Waverly antique wax and also these wood palette pieces that you can get in a package of 6 from DollarTree. You could use this antique wax or you could stain it. I just like the antique wax because it dries faster and it doesn't have an odor. Now I pre-prepared these vinyl pieces on my Cricut, but if you don't have a Cricut, you could also use letters that you can buy at DollarTree. And then I'm going to put the black letters on the white pieces and the white letters on the green pieces to spell out fall. Once you've got that all done, then the next thing you're going to need are some twigs from outside. I grabbed these from a pine tree that we just had to take down, and I cut them to size to make stems. Now I'm working on the sign that's going to be on the side with some wooden dowels I got from Dollar General and a piece of a painter's stir stick that I used from last week's video. I cut out one of the happies that I printed on my printer, and now I'm going to take my brown ink pad and I'm going to rustic up the edges a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is take those twigs that I cut into stems earlier and glue them on top of each of the cube pumpkins. Now get ready, you're going to need those eucalyptus stems that you can buy in a bunch at Walmart. You're also going to need upcoming that Spanish moss, and we're going to create little toppers for our pumpkins. So get your hot glue gun ready. I also pulled my silicone finger that I bought from DollarTree. It comes in a package of 3, but I don't want to burn my finger on this hot glue. I see that second happy sitting over there to my right, and if you'll notice, there were 2 happies when I cut. One I had the bleed on and one I had the bleed off. Now this will become more important as we see later in another project. The next thing you're going to need to grab is your twine. And we're going to make twine bows to put on top of each of the pumpkins as a little bit extra added decor. Something else I forgot to say earlier was that happy sign I glued on using my Elmer's glue stick, and I like the purple one because then you can see where it is and where it isn't. We're just making little shoestring bows, and you can tie them however you like. I like to make 2 loops and then pull them through, kind of like the rabbit ears when you were teaching your kids how to tie their shoes. Don't put your glue gun away yet. We still have to attach the sign and we have to attach all 4 blocks. Now I attached 1 at each end, and remember that glue dries pretty quickly, so once you get it set, you're not likely to be able to move it. You'll see here how I wished I'd been able to. But I did the 2 ends first and then I did the middles, and that way I could evenly space them out. See? Here I'm trying to get that last one to move and it's just not budging. And that's all there is to it. Happy fall, y'all. Venturing off into project number 2, here are all the supplies that we're going to need. And we're going to start with these 3 wooden pumpkins. I bought these at DollarTree last year, but they're still available at DollarTree again this year. And mine have sat for a whole year, so these stickers on the back side got really good and stuck, and you're going to see how the project takes a little turn here, as mine always seem to do, when I had quite the mess trying to clean up those stickers. My intention was to sand off the glitter on the front side and then use the color on the back side so I wouldn't have to paint them. But that didn't quite work out the way I had thought. I'm still getting the glitter off the front because when I glue the paper on that I bought from Hobby Lobby, then I didn't want too many bumps in it from the glitter. The glitter leaves a mess, so I got my handy dandy desk vacuum out and I cleaned that all up. Now here's where you can see where all that backside went awry. I had to scrape off the stickers with a razor blade and dug into the backside, and then it was still sticky, so I used some Gooby Gone, which you can buy from the Dollar Tree, by the way, and a little bit of sandpaper to get that sticky off. And now I'm going to paint them with my Waverly chalk paint in ivory, give them all a good coat on the back side. Mine are going to sit on my dining room table, and so I wanted both the front and the back to look nice. While these all dry, I'm going to be getting out my brown craft tags from Dollar General and my brown ink pad from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to be folding and rusticking these up and making them look old and worn and vintage. And then I'm going to rub some of that ink pad on them just to give them some more rustic edges and looks. And then I'm going to get out my letter stamps that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to spell blessed and thankful and grateful. What are you thankful for this fall season? Leave me a comment below. I'm thankful for all of you and the love and support that you've shown me as we get started on this journey together. Moving on, the next thing we're going to need is our scrapbook paper. You can pick any fall paper that you like. I picked some that I had from another project that I've done, and I traced around the pumpkin and cut them out, making sure that everything was going in the right direction, especially that one down there that has pumpkins and cranberries and all the things Thanksgiving. And then I'm going to pull out my handy dandy purple glue stick from Elmer's. Of course, you guys know that I love this glue stick, especially love knowing where it is and where it isn't. And I'm going to place this on top of the pumpkin. Now, I could have used Mod Podge, but I chose not to because I didn't know if there were going to be any little pieces left of that glitter, and I didn't want any bumps underneath my paper. Now, as you see, when I'm putting on this orange piece, there's extra pieces left over. So I'm going to pull out a heavy-duty nail file that I believe I actually got this from Temu in a package of 6. And I'm going to file off those edges. And then I'm going to give it a little bit more rustic look with my brown ink pad that I got from Hobby Lobby. The next thing I'm going to be doing is pulling out all my ribbons. Pretty much every ribbon I used came from Dollar Tree. This one is a burlap that comes in a package of 3 different types, and I just kind of eyeball it for how big I want this messy bow. I'm going to cut a variety of ribbons in a variety of colors that all kind of match together and go with my paper. This burlap here I decided was a little bit too wide, and so I'm cutting it in half. And after I get everything cut and then pull out some raffia, I'm going to start laying out my bow, crisscrossing the pieces, and then repeating the pattern until I get all the pieces put together. Once I have that done, I'm going to pull out some baker's twine that I got from Dollar Tree, and it's an orange and white. Now, because the rest of the ribbons were more rustic looking and this was a little bit too stark white, I decided to pull out my finger dauber and my brown ink pad and rustic it up a little bit. Now when I did the other two, for the other two bows, I actually just ran that baker's twine across the pad instead of using my finger dauber. So I'm going to tie this all up and tie it in a bow, and then I'm going to add it on top of the pumpkin using that baker's twine to go around that little stem. Then I'm going to add my tag down to the bottom and tie that on, being sure to not tie it too tight and rip that top of that tag off. Once I've got that all tied and nice the way I like it, then I'm going to make a shoestring bow out of some raffia and glue that on top just to finish it off. See how nice those look? And here they are, styled on top of my countertop in my kitchen. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's grab all our supplies for project number 3. We're going to need some pumpkins, some wood pieces, this crate, some raffia, and let's start with the antique wax. Now, I use a baby wipe to spread this antique wax because then you're wiping and spreading at the same time. So I pour this on here and then oopsies. So I hadn't anticipated that I was going to put antique wax onto this little chalkboard sign, but since I spilled it, I guess I will. Now I don't need it on the back side. I'm just going to take this clip off because we won't need that at all. And we're going to clean up our mess and get going. As I was saying, I use a baby wipe because then I can put it on and take it off at the same time, and it saves a step. And as I said earlier, you could also just use stain if you wanted to. I'm going to do a little bit on the inside just in case that happens to show when we're done. The next thing you're going to see are those 2 pieces of paper that I referred to earlier. The one on the left, I forgot to turn the bleed off. The one on the right, I did. Now you may ask yourself, what does that mean? If you don't have a Cricut, you probably wouldn't know. What it means is when you do a print to cut, if you turn the bleed off, then it will create a crisper print. If you leave it on, it makes it a jumbled mess. So we're going to take some of that leftover wax we had on that baby wipe, and we are going to hit this craft stick a little bit. This is going to be the pull on our wagon. I got out some floral foam and I'm cutting it with this little paint scraper to fit inside the box, and we're going to use this to attach our pumpkins in a minute. Next, we're going to glue this craft stick inside the wagon to create the handle for the wagon, and then we are going to take the wooden pieces to put on to make our wheels. Now I picked these so that they were about the same size. Oops. And you know, this hot glue, it sticks when you don't want it to and it doesn't when you need it to. So here I am putting the 4 wheels on, and as I was saying, I picked 4 wood rounds that were approximately the same size so that my wagon would be even and not toddle back and forth. Next, I'm going to be putting in some of this green reindeer moss to cover up the green floral foam so that you can't see that from the top of the wagon. And then I'm going to take some of that raffia and cut it up into bits and pieces to make it look like straw on the top of my reindeer moss. All 3 of these items can be found at the Dollar Tree, the reindeer moss, the raffia, as well as those pieces of green floral foam. Now I am going to be painting up my pumpkins. The first little ones, I was trying to give them a whitewash appearance, and later on you'll see that I didn't like the color of that, and I changed it from the time I finished the project until I took the final pictures. One of the things you'll notice is that when I poured out the pumpkin colored Waverly chalk paint, I added a little bit of that truffle color to it to make it more of a muted orange. And I did the same with this yellow color, which is called Maize by Waverly. Then I'm going to set those aside, and I'm getting ready to glue on my little pumpkins for sale sign onto the side of this wagon. I got that glued on, and then I decided that the pull needed a handle. And so I went and found a black twist tie, and I cut it into a piece to make a little handle out of it. One of the things I love about crafting is being able to use all kinds of items to make accessories and embellishments for projects, and also the creativity that's involved. You might even notice that my paint is sitting on the bottom of a pizza package. So I pulled out my eucalyptus next, and I am going to pull off some pieces to make little stems for the pumpkins. When I got the first one going, I decided I didn't like the shape of it, and so I cut it down so that it was a little bit thinner, not quite so hefty. And then I am going to use my hot glue to glue that on top of that white pumpkin. You can see that I've already given it a little bit of dry brush of brown to give it some more texture. And I'm also painting each of the stems at the top of all the pumpkins with that truffle paint from Waverly as well. After I got 2 coats of paint on all of the pumpkins and they were covered the way I liked them, finished adding all the stems, it's time to assemble. So I'm cutting down the sticks on these pumpkins to a size that'll fit inside this wagon and attach to that floral foam that we put in there earlier. And I'm just arranging them here and there however I think they look good, and then I am going to be done. And in this styled video, you see that I changed the little pumpkins to different colors. Project number 4 only requires a few items. First, we're going to start with this blue painter's tape that we're going to wrap around the rolling pin part of the rolling pin. I don't know if that makes sense. The handle's on the rolling pin. And then we're going to take that chalk paint and truffle and we're going to cover the entire white section of this rolling pin. I bought this little rolling pin at Hobby Lobby on clearance, but you can also buy them at a variety of craft stores or even Amazon in packages. Now I'm going to be using a white glossy permanent vinyl, and you can see I'm struggling a little bit to get the backing off. Struggling. I printed individual letters and they're kind of small, and it is just giving me the time of my life to get this taken off. Whew! Finally got that done, and now I'm going to take out all the little bits out of the individual letters, and then I'm going to grab my clear contact paper that I buy from DollarTree. I like to use this as transfer tape because it doesn't have a terrible amount of sticky, and so it doesn't remove my paint when I take it off after I put my letters on. Now I grab my little burnisher and I'm trying to push this down and get it stuck real good to that transfer tape, and it's just not coming. Well, it is. It's coming off. The letters are coming off. They're not sticking to the transfer tape. And so I'm trying to push them back and push them on and trying to make it work and stick it, and struggling, and I finally just say, to heck with it. So I finally got another piece printed, and now I'm taking off the painter's tape, and then you'll notice when I start weeding this piece that I actually did cursive letters to spell out sweater weather. So it's all kind of one piece or 2 pieces, and it will definitely be easier, I'm hoping, to get onto the transfer tape. And here we are. Everything came out perfectly this time. So we are using that transfer tape to stick this on, and then we're going to make a shoestring bow out of this lace from DollarTree and place that on one of the handles. And when I get done with that, I decided that that white vinyl was a little bit too stark white and a little bit too shiny. So I'm going to use some white chalk paint by Waverly to give it kind of a little more muted look, and then give it a little bit of dry brushing along the sides, and then this project will be complete. And here we are, styled on my tiered tray. Now on to our fifth and final project for today. We are going to be using this wood frame that's got this Christmas paper stuck to it. And I'm using this scraper that I bought at DollarTree, and normally it works really well, but this paper is stuck on good. Now I don't remember where exactly I bought this frame, but I need to get this paper off. Hindsight, I might have been able to use maybe my heat gun to release the glue. Maybe that would have helped, but instead I'm picking and sanding and picking and sanding. Now that black vinyl that you see there is already a pre-cut piece that I made over in Cricut Design Space, and it is open to the community if you would like to download it and use it on your Cricut. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, you could also do a similar design, maybe in Canva or one of those types of places, and print it out on paper and then use your Mod Podge to put inside this frame. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it all white and give it a nice clean space with which to work. And then I will be moving on to weeding that vinyl. As I finish up the painting, I'm hoping that I'm not going to have the same issue with the vinyl that I had with those letters on that rolling pin earlier. So I'm going to start weeding it, and I'm going to start with the leaf first. It's the biggest piece, but as I go towards the words, things are starting to stick together. So I'm going to peel and cut and peel and cut so that I don't end up with anything coming off where it needs to stay, or staying where it needs to come off, or getting stuck to something else. So I am going to try to take my time and get this off, again cutting as I go. Now I don't know if you can see where I've already lost something, but that s'mores is missing its apostrophe. And I'll figure that out here in a minute, but I'm going to try to get the rest of this off, and I'm using my weeding tool to help hold down the letters. And then I am going to get this off here in just a second. Oopsie, I lost the Y. So I'm going to pull it off that sticky paper, and I am going to place it back on where it belongs and get that last little bit off, and then weed all the insides of the letters out so that we can get ready to get the transfer tape out and get this transferred inside that frame. Weeding sometimes can be a very tedious task, but the results are amazing. I like to use my Cricut because I'm not a real big fan of my handwriting, which I suppose if you're a painter and you have nice handwriting, you could actually just draw this inside that frame. And it's about now that I've determined I'm missing that apostrophe from the s'mores. So now I'm going through my trash pieces trying to find it. Oh, there it is, and get it stuck back on there. Now we are ready for that clear contact paper. As I said before, I like to use it because it doesn't peel the paint when you're peeling off the transfer tape to leave your design on your surface. I'm going to use only half of it at first and make sure that it doesn't stick where it's not supposed to, and clean off the edges so it fits inside that frame. And then I'm going to burnish it all down so that it's hopefully going to stick to that transfer tape. And we are going to see what happens now. And there we are, all good. I set it down first, make sure it's in place, and then I push it all down to make sure it sticks on there, and then take off that transfer tape. Oop, you see a couple of pieces of paint came with it, but I'll tell you why. It's because I got a little bit impatient and the paint wasn't completely dry when I stuck this on there. And so here I'm pulling off the last little bits, and here it is styled on my counter. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I really enjoyed our time together, and I'm looking forward to the next time. But until then, make it a great day, and happy Tuesday!